Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast.
Hi there from Vietnam. How are you all? Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, which is brought to you by Kraken. And this week is ATM week, a week of shows looking at the Bitcoin ATM industry. So the first show in this series is an interview with Gil Valentine and Eric Gravengaard from Athena Bitcoin, who I caught up with in Chicago last month to discuss operating a Bitcoin ATM business. But before that, I do have a message from my show sponsors. So firstly, today's show is brought to you by Coin ATM Radar. So buying from a machine is much more reliable and safer than meeting a stranger. With Coin ATM Radar, you can find Bitcoin ATMs and other services where you can buy or sell crypto for cash. On their website, you can search by coin, address, or even geo area, country, state, city, and you can also filter your results, and for example, by lowest fee. People often complain about the fees, so you can use that as a filter. They do have a mobile app, which is available on the Apple and Google app stores, and there is also support for operators on their website. So if you want to find out more, head over to coinatmradar.com, which is coinatmradar.com, or search for them on the Apple and Google app stores. Also, today's show is brought to you by Liberty X. If you want to buy Bitcoin instantly and you don't want to wait days for a wire or bank transfer, then you need to check out Liberty X. They operate America's largest network of Bitcoin ATMs, cashiers, and kiosks with thousands of locations across 43 states. You can pay however you want, whether you want to use cash or a debit card, and the process is really easy. Just download the app from the App Store and create a free account, and then search and select your nearest purchase location. You just provide your Bitcoin address, and then you complete your payment. You can buy from $1 and up to $1,000 a day, and the Bitcoin is delivered to you before you leave the store. I checked it out while I was in the States. While I was in Boston, I downloaded the app and played with it, and I got to tell you, it couldn't be easier. So you definitely want to check it out. You can find out more at libertyx.com, which is LIBERTYX.com, or search for Liberty X in the Apple and Google app stores. All right, so let's move on to the first show in the ATM week. And to kick off, I'm joined by Gil and Eric, co-founders of Athena Bitcoin. They operate Bitcoin ATMs throughout the US and South America. I first met up with Gil when I was passing through Chicago a while back. He took me out, he bought me some drinks, really, really great guy. And so when I knew I was going to do this series, he was the obvious first person to reach out to get on. Coming into the series, I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to think. I don't know too much about the industry. I was a bit unsure because I'd heard about the high fees. I didn't know why people would be using machines, but it does allow instantaneous access to Bitcoin without signing up to a website. And you can get easy exposure to Bitcoin without even having a bank account. And the benefits are clear when you look at countries that are suffering economic instability and massive inflation like Argentina. I know if I was in a place like Argentina, I would be selling some of mine and I would be hedging with Bitcoin. So in this episode, we spoke about the difficulties of setting up a Bitcoin ATM business, the regulation requirements, branching out into South America, and putting an ATM on the border of Colombia and Venezuela, which itself was pretty cool to hear about. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this and I hope you enjoy the series. If you do have any questions or feedback, you know you can hit me up on hello@whatbitcoindid.com. Yeah, look forward to hearing from you. Morning, Gil. Morning, Eric. Second time I've met up with you, Gil, right?
Yeah. We met, I think, in March.
In March.
You came through Chicago.
Yeah. And Eric, this is the first time I met you.
Yeah, that's right.
You're Gil's co-founder.
I am. We've been business partners for the last 5 years.
Oh, right. Okay. So I'm about to put together a series about ATM. Somebody asked me to, and it was only right that the first company I speak to is Athena, because I met Gil a while back. He bought me a few whiskey sours, so it's only right that I speak to you guys first. But I don't know a lot about the industry, so we're going to do this with a completely open book. So firstly, it would be great to hear about why and how you formed Athena. That would be a great start, and then we'll go from there.
I will start. This is Gil Valentine. Eric and I met about 5 years ago, and we're fascinated by Bitcoin. I think we're both like Bitcoin class of 2013. So when Eric and I met, we were kicking around some ideas on how to do some business together. And the thing that we noticed in the marketplace was, other than speculating and arbitraging, there were very few ways to get into the money flow. And at the time, this different kind of machine was starting to come into the marketplace, which is a Bitcoin ATM. And so we wanted to get into the money flow, and the Bitcoin ATMs seemed like a reasonable bet, so to speak. And so we started in late 2014 and immediately saw demand. We installed for the first 8 ATMs here in the Chicagoland area, which now has over 220 in the Chicagoland area. So here in Chicago is the largest urban concentration of Bitcoin ATMs. We quickly went to other cities here in the United States and have grown the business to 65 ATMs in the United States in 8 different states, and 22 in Colombia, 11 in Argentina, and we're starting to make an incursion into Mexico.
And what challenges come with the ATM business? Are there certain regulations and laws that you have to specifically follow?
So I'll take that again as the Chief Compliance Officer. We are regulated by FinCEN on a national level, so we have to follow the Bank Secrecy Act to combat anti-terrorist financing and money laundering. And then we are regulated by 3 different states on a money transmission level, which is basically consumer protection. And then the other 5 states that we operate in do not require money transmission license or an MTL. And then as we go into foreign jurisdictions, we follow our own United States Bank Secrecy Act, which is slightly less stringent than in Colombia and Argentina, although the limits of how much cryptocurrency a person can purchase per day is lower than here in the United States.
So when people are using an ATM, do they have to use a passport each time, which identifies them?
They do not.
Okay.
We don't run a full identity check on people that come in randomly and buy $20 worth of Litecoin or $40 worth of Bitcoin. But once they reach a certain threshold, which is about $3,000 in aggregate purchases, we then ask for an identity scan or ID scan.
At the machine?
At the machine.
How do you know if they've done $3,000 in aggregate if they were going to different machines? Say, could they do 1,000, or is it because they're using their card?
That's a good question. Each account has a cell phone number appended to it. So that is our first compliance hop. We pull the cell phone owner's data and then run an OFAC check against them, or we cross-reference their name to see if they are on the OFAC list, which is basically a terrorist list or somebody who is committing some sort of financial malfeasance. So the cell phone number then gives them an account identifier. So each time they come to whatever machine, we know in aggregate how much that cell phone number, which turns into an account number, how much they have purchased on our platform, Athena's platform.
So there's no integration between different machine operators?
No, just like there's no integration necessarily between Bank of America and Chase. If you withdraw $5,000 from your Chase account and $5,000 from your Bank of America account, there's no way to know that you're walking around with $10,000.
I understand. Why $10,000 there? Is that a certain...
There are certain rules in the United States around transactions involving more than $10,000. We often refer to those as the currency and transaction report. So in the United States, if you make a purchase more than $10,000 in physical currency, depending on what that purchase is, you need to report that to the government.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I think there's similar things in other parts of Europe and the UK around transactions over certain thresholds.
Right. I'm not aware of that in the
In
UK.
cash.
In cash.
In cash, okay. So if you're paying on cards. I mean, sometimes I have it with the bank when I've withdrawn a significant amount of cash, they've asked me what it's for.
Right.
And I always tell them it's for drugs, just because I think it's none of your business. I mean, it clearly isn't. Okay. So what stops a user, therefore, having two cell numbers and two accounts?
We try to monitor for those types of things. I'm sure that someone extremely clever that brings a busload of people and each person uses their own cell phone could, get around our controls. But in general, our customer service team is constantly monitoring all transactions and looking for exactly that type of behavior.
Okay.
Where someone just keeps using a new phone number over and over and over again.
And do the machines take photos of them?
Yes.
They do. Okay. So you have that information
We
as
do.
well.
And we have a live video camera on all of our machines, so you can really monitor those types of things.
Has anyone ever tried to smash one of the machines in and take them?
It is unfortunate that some people do try to rob our machines.
Okay.
Much like there's crime in almost every other industry.
Okay. That must be annoying.
It is. It's also annoying, when people, I'm sure, vandalize other machines, but
Yeah.
it's part of the cost of doing business,
In Dallas.
especially in Dallas.
Why is Dallas?
We don't know.
It just keeps happening there.
It's happened twice in Dallas.
Twice in Dallas. Okay. So they can buy or sell up to 3,000 a day.
They can do up to $9,500 is our maximum threshold in a day.
In a day.
But then we'll know, we'll have their ID scanned. It's gone through many of our compliance checks. We really think about it in terms of the risk.
So 9,500 if they
If they
provided.
provided with us with proper documentation.
Okay, and if they haven't, it's up to 3,000.
Well, it's up to
think
3,000 in aggregate buys.
I think it's 2,000 on the debt. You know what? It's a risk-based approach.
Yeah,
But what we really
okay.
try to separate out is this a casual user of crypto? I need to buy $500 of crypto. I need to buy $50 of crypto. I need to buy $5,000 of crypto.
Okay.
Each of those represents a different risk to not just our business, but to the global financial system. If you're trying to buy $50 of crypto so that you can send it to your niece or nephew for their birthday, I don't really need to know that much about you.
Of course.
$500, we're starting to become more interesting if it's a regular purchase. At $5,000, no, I think we should be collecting, much like any other Bitcoin exchange. Well, now you're making a significant purchase. We'd like to know who you are. We want to make sure you don't, do the wrong things with your money, or try to, get around our controls by using the same driver's license but with 10 phone numbers. We can find that out.
Okay.
So, it's a risk-based approach. And our advantage is that over an exchange is we can prevent you from putting the next $20 in. So we can start with, we know a little bit about you. And as our economic interactions increase, then we can ask for more information. So, you know what, we're not ready to take your next $20 bill. Please scan your ID, and then you can continue. We can do those things because of the nature of having a machine. But other than that, we're like any other Bitcoin exchange.
And is all the account creation and management done at the ATM, or once you've created that, can you also manage your account in a website? It's all done at the ATM.
It's all done at the ATMs, which is
Okay.
great because when we say, please scan your ID, we know where you're standing. We have a picture of the ID, and we have a picture of the barcode of the ID. It's a much different prospect if you're an exchange and you're just told, oh, upload a picture of your ID using this web form. Well, maybe you have that ID, or maybe you bought my driver's license off of the dark web. We don't know. A lot of the exchanges can't tell, or they go to great lengths to make sure that they can tell.
Painful links. Sometimes you have to. I had one where I had to have a video conference with somebody, and they had to talk to me, and I had to lift up my passport.
Yes. Because they're trying to prove that
You are you.
you are you,
Yeah.
and that you are the owner of that passport, and not just, could you take a picture of the passport? No problem, I just took a picture of the passport. Could you have a picture of the passport with a banana peel in it? Okay, great, I've done that. But you still don't know that the person who took the picture with the banana meant to open an account at that website.
Right.
Whereas for us, well, the person standing there with his ID, we can see him on the video camera. He kind of looks like the picture on his driver's license. And all of that's happening in real time. And so we know, yeah, that's that guy. And this is his license. And he's currently residing in Florida.
And what kind of locations do you have the machines in?
Convenient ones.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But what are the most convenient ones?
People love gas stations.
Mm-hmm.
They love outdoor shopping centers. I think some of our top locations are really close to the highway. Bitcoin is a destination. It's solving a problem that was not solvable before Bitcoin existed. And so our clientele are looking for convenient ways to get access to crypto. They are not, I mean, occasionally, but most people just don't stroll through a mall or happen upon a convenience store and say, you know what, I just saw a Bitcoin ATM. I have $200 in my pocket. I'm going to put it in. Like, that's not a natural thing that our clients do. Our clients look up, they say, we need to buy Bitcoin. Where can I buy it conveniently? Oh, I see this place is right off the highway on my way to work.
I could though imagine some people will see a machine in a mall and go, oh, I've heard about this Bitcoin.
In Argentina, that happens all the time.
Oh, really?
But that's much more about like educating a whole population about what Bitcoin might be able to do to unlock, a broader financial system for them. Our clients in the US tend to be much more, I'm trying to pay for this thing online. How do I get Bitcoin conveniently? Let's see, if I drive from here to my bank to get money out and then I go to this place, it's much more about convenience.
And where the location you put them in, do you have challenges getting them in? Do you have to have commercial arrangements with, say, the mall owner? Is it a rev share? How does that work?
We have great relationships with several different companies that own gas station chains or convenience store chains. In the US, we have relationships with large publicly traded property managers in the United States. So when we're in an outdoor shopping center in Texas or Georgia, we're often in not just one of their locations, but we might be in 10 or 20.
And I imagine you monitor each machine closely in terms of performance. Can a machine run at a loss, or is once a machine in place, is it only a profitable
I'm
situation?
sure we have machines that are economically, certain machines are economically better than the others.
Uh-huh.
In general, though, most of our machines operate at a profit.
Okay.
Some are just really in interesting locations where we want to keep it because a lot of people walk by it and see our brand, even if they're not putting in large amounts of money.
And how many machines in total did you say in the US?
I think we just installed 7 in 24 hours on Friday, and that brings our fleet in the United States somewhere around 72.
Okay.
And we're going to have another 12 to 13 installed in the coming weeks. So that'll bring us up to just under 90.
Yeah, in the 80s, 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
What's stopping you having 800 or 900?
Good question.
Because
Yeah.
I could probably go to LA and find 800 or 900 ATMs.
Right.
So what's stopping you guys going 800 or 900, like the huge rollout?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of barriers to entry in this industry. Obviously, as with all crypto, we have to have a really solid banking relationship because banking is the lifeblood of what we do. We convert digital money, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, into physical money, the actual paper currency of the realm. And then that has to be deposited into a bank account to become electronic money so we can go and bring that back into the cycle of buying more crypto. So you have to have a very solid banking relationship that is able to accept your deposits nationwide, or at least in the regions where we operate. So that's like the first barrier to entry. And the second
was that hard to get?
That's been very difficult to get for a variety of reasons that have nothing to do with crypto. Cash-based businesses, whether they are check cashers or Bitcoin ATMs, have long had very difficult times getting bank accounts in the United States. The surveillance needs that the bank might have around knowing that the bank's client is doing a very good job of keeping track of money laundering, anti-terrorist financing is difficult. And so, our bank, which I will not name, trusts us to do a good job with our clients.
And I expect you probably have a different relationship with them than I have, say, with my business account, whereby I open an account online and I just use it. I imagine you have to have a constant dialogue with them.
We do. And we know our bankers well and they know us well, and we do have a very close relationship.
So in terms of the locations, obviously you've got them spread out in the US. You also mentioned Argentina. I mean, Argentina is a great use case because really, depending on where the price of Bitcoin is, you probably want to offload your peso with the inflation they've been suffering. Is that the primary reason you're in Argentina?
Yeah, we looked at the U.S. and saw that every time we made a major innovation, whether it was we're multi-state or we're in South Florida, there's numerous people that can copycat us. Maybe they can't reach as many states as we can, but there's always two guys sitting in their dorm room thinking, you know what, why don't we buy our first Bitcoin ATM and try it out? And there's always going to be that type of competition in the U.S. But we looked at the map and said, you know what, there's just almost no activity in this space in Colombia, in Argentina, in South America. And, we think that the use case there is just so much more compelling than, the US use case is how do I send $500 to Shenzhen, China in order to get a box of selfie sticks? Which is interesting, but, is that scalable long term? I don't think about Bitcoin as the end all be all to this technology. I think it's digitization of, in many ways, I said this earlier to someone else, it's the digitization of medieval money. We have taken Isaac Newton's coins and digitized them. I think in coming years we're going to see the digitization of other financial products, savings accounts, investment products, life insurance products, or insurance products in general. We think that those things can be delivered via these digital terminals to people in the global south, whether that's South America, Africa, or Polynesia, or that region. And so we want to be at the forefront of that. And so yes, the reason why we're in Colombia and why people use Bitcoin there is much more about, yes, how can I get paid by someone in a foreign country? In Argentina, how can I put my money into something that is not an Argentine peso denominated bank account? Because obviously, the Argentine people have seen their currency devalued several times over the last 2 decades. Even most recently, they've lost,
I just looked it up. So I was in Argentina in November, and it was 35 to the dollar, 35 pesos to the dollar. Earlier this month, it was about 45 pesos to the dollar, and it just retraced 8%, and now it's 42.50 to the dollar.
I thought it was about 40% over the last year. I could be wrong.
Probably about right.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And even the government was optimistic that they could get inflation down to 22%.
It's funny, I've met a couple of people from Argentina, and they say, you only have to have grown up in Argentina to know the value of Bitcoin.
Sound money is a really tricky technology to pull off. Mm-hmm. The US, Japan, and really a couple countries in Europe have done a good job at it. But it's a very difficult thing to have achieved. And very few countries over the last 100 years have done it.
Okay. Do you have a machine on the Venezuela border?
Yes, we do.
I thought you did.
Yeah, this is Gil. It was installed in April in the city of Cucuta.
Mm-hmm.
Our team went down there, which is, it's near the equator, right?
Yes.
And very hot. Also ground zero of kind of an exodus of Venezuelan nationals. I believe it's the only open border and opened by Colombia. It was closed in May for a number of weeks.
Is it where the bridge is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very close to the bridge. And so we put it in there as more an experiment, being in kind of a crisis zone. And it's done pretty well, with the exception for about 3 weeks when Venezuela had blackouts. And so the Venezuelan citizens that had these wallets on their smartphones could not access.
Because they couldn't charge their phones.
No, the service was down.
Okay.
So they couldn't access either a dumb phone wallet, which I'll give a shout out to Cointigo out of Venezuela. You don't need a smartphone to use it. It's just, you just need to be on a cellular network, and you can do transactions via SMS. And we've spoken to Cointigo on 3 different occasions. And so the machine is at a travel depot where there are 10,000 Western Union remittances a month. Lines are 3 to 5 hours deep. Our machine is adjacent to one of the travel depots. Well, the one that's right next to the bridge. And we have seen a lot of activity. There's some interesting things happening in Cucuta with some interesting people that are looking to make Cucuta the digital currency city of Colombia. So Crypto Conserje with an I, who's on Twitter, along with Crypto Graffiti. I don't know, have you met?
Yeah, I met him a couple of times. I bought a painting, well, one of his piece of art. I bought his Hal Finney piece off him.
Yeah.
I've got 2 actually. I've got to give one out as a competition. He's a great guy.
Yeah, fantastic.
They made a video down there, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they raised $10,000
Amazing.
in a mural project, and both personally and Athena corporately donated to that cause. And right now they're working on buying a school, because Venezuelan children are right now, there's not a lot of schooling going on in Venezuela, so the kids come over the border to be educated, and this initiative, along with building a school, in the off hours, it's going to be a cryptocurrency learning center. So really interesting stuff happening in Cucuta, and we're glad that we're there and experimenting with use cases with people that are using crypto in crisis. So we also, on our social media, have a hashtag, crypto is crisis currency.
So what's the different challenges you have operating a Bitcoin ATM in Argentina and Colombia as opposed to the US?
You know, in many ways, it's the same business. You know, and we always focus on people, processes, and technologies, and those are very similar. But obviously, also, we're in a foreign country, and I can't jump on a plane to go fix the machine.
Of course.
And so, you know, the machines we have in Ohio, we can, you know, if we have to, we can get in a car and drive and go fix that right now. But obviously, operating in, you know, Buenos Aires, we have to have a team on the ground who can go and do those same things. And
Do you have to have security in these locations?
you know, we've gotten out of the business of physically touching the money, so we've always used armored cars to go and do that.
Okay, and if you're accepting the Argentinian peso, are you yourselves trying to offload that as quickly as possible?
Yeah, we like dollars a lot more than we like Argentine peso.
Does the machine take both?
No. In every jurisdiction, we only operate in the local
Okay.
currency. So, yeah, our bank transactions will be, let's take our pesos, redenominate them in dollars, trade Bitcoin, but not try to keep a huge amount in Argentine peso.
Next up, I talked to Gil and Eric more about operating a Bitcoin ATM business. But before that, I've got a message from my regular sponsors. And listen, because I've got a couple of main sponsors who want to cover this series, I am giving a shout out to my regular sponsors in the midsection. So just a quick shout out, firstly, to Kraken. You know who they are. They're the best exchange in the world. With spot, futures, margin trading, their OTC desk, and indices, they've got all your trading needs covered. With security in their DNA, it is the only place I now buy and sell Bitcoin. If you want to join me in supporting Kraken, head over to kraken.com, which is KRAKEN.com. Also, my other regular main sponsor, BlockFi, the future of Bitcoin and financial services. They offer crypto-backed loans. They've got crypto interest accounts, which I'm using. You can find out more at blockfi.com, which is BLOCKFI.com. Next up, Dropbit, the best mobile wallet for Bitcoin. Text and tweet Bitcoin to your friends. It's just like a Venmo for Bitcoin. You got to check them out. Head over to dropbit.app, which is DROPBIT.app. And last but not leastly, Accounting, the best tax calculator in the market. Also includes an amazing portfolio manager, and it connects to all major wallets and exchanges. If you want to find out more, head over to accointing.com, which is ACCOINTING.com. Can somebody send you Bitcoin to an ATM?
And get money out? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they can.
So I can go to the ATM and it's waiting for me.
It's not waiting for you. It's more you go up to the ATM and say, I'd like to withdraw $200. It'll give you an address, you send it, and then the money comes out of the machine.
Okay, so if I've already got it on my wallet, okay.
Yeah.
And I still probably have to wait 6 confirmations?
One,
You do 1 confirmation?
yes.
Okay, that's a bold
We
decision.
look, if you want to try to double spend against us, like that might be like really interesting and fun. You probably won't,
Well, I know Bitrefill do 0 confirmations.
Yeah,
They trust the model.
Like we have often done 0. Replaced by fee. Obviously, we're against that because we would rather people get their money. The user experience does not really make sense to, well, here, have a seat, a cup of coffee. Let's wait 6 confirmations. Oh, why are all those people waiting there? Oh, well, they're waiting for this machine to spit out money. Oh, really? How much money? Well, it's Bitcoin money, so it's probably a lot. Great, we'll just wait here with them and then we'll rob them when they leave. Like, that's not a great model for anything to happen.
And how long does 1 confirmation usually take? Is that under 10 minutes?
I think right now the network average is 10 minutes.
Has anyone double spent you?
No one's ever double spent us, but that's not like a challenge.
No, it's not a challenge, but it's interesting that you've done that in Bitrefill, and I've
Yeah.
noticed other companies have accepted a certain level of risk.
Yes, I think as long as you understood what the replaced by fee transactions looked like when they started happening a year ago and knew how to filter them out, it's been fine.
Okay. So the use case in Argentina and Colombia is kind of obvious. It's a way to preserve your capital. It's a way to receive money. So I understand that. What are the different use cases you know of in somewhere like the US, in a more Western country?
We deal in the market of needing Bitcoin today. And that is different than someone who wants to access the risk market. Gil and I are both ex-traders where people were trying to take on certain risks or eliminate risks from their lives. And so what that would mean was like, oh, I want to have the risk of if the S&P 500 index goes up today, I'm a winner. That's a risk market. Bitcoin is often a risk market. I want to make money if Bitcoin goes up, so therefore I just need to buy something that goes up with Bitcoin. That could be a BitMEX future, it could be an actual Bitcoin. But we deal with our ATMs in the market for people who want to use Bitcoin. And so if you want to use a Bitcoin, you want to give someone your money and you want to get the Bitcoin onto your wallet that will then transmit it whenever you want it. And that's different than the Coinbase model, which is, well, you keep it on our exchange and maybe we'll let you take it off the exchange based on certain limits, and we're going to basically censor where you send this Bitcoin. But that's not our market. Our market is people who want to spend it today. So then let's think about where can you spend Bitcoin today. And yes, many of our customers are buying things online or over great distances. And some of our favorite examples are, this gentleman, I call him a kid, I guess he was about 22, Trayvon, lived here in Chicago, initially came to me when I was a local Bitcoin dealer, and then later came to our machine when we installed one on the west side of Chicago. He would come in, buy $500 of Bitcoin, immediately send it to someone in China, who would turn around and send him human hair for hair extensions.
Okay.
And when he first came to me and he asked me, like, can I buy $500 of Bitcoin? I'm like, Trayvon, you bought 500 yesterday. What are you doing? He's like, don't tell anyone. I'm like, that's not the way we start these conversations, but continue. He's like, okay, but don't tell many people. I'm buying hair from China. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, well, my mother and I are in a hair distributorship. We buy hair from China. We get it at about a tenth of the price that we used to buy it for. We get it directly from this guy in China who I speak to using Google Translate, and then we sell it to all the hair salons here in Chicago. He's like, have you ever seen hair extensions? I'm like, I guess. Like, I don't personally have hair extensions, but I assume that other people do. He's like, yeah, well, they're really expensive, and we're cutting out a huge amount of cost by buying them direct from China.
The number of technology innovations that have made that business relationship work. Not only have you got telephony, mobile telephony, you've got Google Translate so they can communicate, you've got some kind of application they can talk through, probably WhatsApp or something, and Bitcoin to allow them to create the financial transaction. It's kind of cool, right?
It was amazing to us, and I think that was one of the things that Gil and I were like, this is a technology, and why do we like Bitcoin? It's a technology that enables the impossible. Like, you're right, like, you couldn't make that, like, amongst the things that are truly space age about our lives right now is that transaction is at all possible.
And why are they doing it with Bitcoin? Is it just too difficult to get a banking relationship between the US and China?
So we'll just stick with Trayvon as an example.
Yeah.
He had walked into a bank, not 2 weeks before meeting me for the first time and said, I'd like to send a $500 wire transfer to Mr. Chen of China. To which his banker on the west side of Chicago was like, Trayvon, you have $600 in your bank account. We're not helping you send a wire for $500. We have no idea what this person's real name is. His name is probably not Stanley Chen. It's probably something in Chinese. Like, we can't help you with this. He's like, I know it's not his name. These are the Chinese characters that represent his name. I'm not stupid. And the bank was like, we don't have anyone that can type that in. We can't do this. But, like, please leave. He's like, so he went back to the computer or his cell phone and talked to his contact in China, and they immediately said, don't worry about it, send us Bitcoin.
Okay.
And Bitcoin, it's censorship resistant or censorship proof. There's no one that can stand in the way of Trayvon sending his money, for better or worse. We didn't really know if this guy was going to send hair, but he did. So he just walks in, he gets his Bitcoin from our machine, sends it to China, and a new package arrives just a few days later.
He could just as easily go on Coinbase, though, and buy $500 and send that to another wallet address. What is the benefit of you over Coinbase?
Coinbase will often not just allow him to take that off platform. They allow you to take it off platform.
Yeah.
You're a highly respected podcaster within this industry.
And you have a 680 or 720 credit score.
Right.
Trayvon is a 22-year-old originally from a poorer neighborhood of Chicago.
So are credit scores relevant to Coinbase accounts?
Not officially.
Perhaps.
Okay. But there are other exchanges.
There are.
Yeah. Okay, so you're one of the options.
We're one of the options.
Okay.
We're certainly one of the faster options.
Where do you get your liquidity from?
We buy from almost all of the major over-the-counter trading desks.
So are you constantly having to top up, manage price? Are you exposed to risk yourself then?
We like being long Bitcoin.
Okay.
But that said, our customers will buy a lot of Bitcoin today, and we will go and make 1 or 2 large trades for Bitcoin today. Our customers are not sitting at the machine hoping that Bitcoin goes up or down $10, and that's when they're going to time putting in their $10 or their $50 or whatever they're buying. So we don't worry too much about the risk of them gaming us. We assume they'll get the average price, and as long as we get an average price, it all works out in the end.
And how do you choose which currencies to allow, and all machines accept all currencies, the same ones?
They do. We have a lot of demand for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Starting about 2 years ago, we started to get a fair amount of demand for Litecoin. And, we've known enough about the Bitcoin Cash, the reason for the split, that we also support that project and larger blocks, even though we don't have a large amount of demand for that currency yet.
Okay.
We do have some dedicated people that are definitely found a place that will accept Bitcoin Cash, and they understand what transaction fees mean to their transaction.
So what's quite interesting there is they're all cryptocurrencies. You didn't have Ethereum in that list, which is by some people still seen as a currency, but it's also seen as more of a token.
And I think that goes to people trying to make investments versus people trying to buy things.
Okay.
While I'm sure people are spending Ethereum to buy t-shirts and hats and what have you, it's a much less common use case to spend your Ethereum for goods and services.
Could you ever offer something like Monero, or does that come with too many regulatory complications?
I think we'd love to support Monero. I think that financial privacy has a meaningful place in our lives. I'm not sure exactly what the regulatory regime would be for a Monero or a Beam or a Grin, but we're interested in those types of things, and if our clients want that, then we would love to deliver that for them.
I mean, I'm aware if I wanted to buy a Bitcoin ATM and stick it in Bedford bus station, I can do that. But I'm assuming that is from a specific company, and I've just got some kind of franchise relationship. Are your machines custom to you?
So we buy our machines from Genesis Coin, who buys the hardware from other people. We customize them quite a bit, custom locks, custom wrapped in a vinyl and things like that. It's not necessarily a franchise relationship. You're the owner of the machine, and we're the owner of our machines. We own the compliance. If someone is abusing our machines, that's on us. That's not on anyone else in terms of like who is responsible for the proper operation of the machine. So that's how our relationships work with that. There are many models in this space where people try to have franchisee relationships. We're building this for the long term. We want to make sure that every one of our transactions is as compliant as possible, while at the same time knowing that this is a business that we want to operate, profitably.
So what is the future of ATM machines? What's coming up? Will there ever be a stage, do you think, where general ATMs are integrated with cryptocurrency?
I think there's a time when banks realize that crypto and digital finance is important to their clientele. There's no reason why Trayvon should be dealing with Coinbase or us. Mm-hmm. Trayvon ought to have just walked into Bank of America and said, I need to send $500 worth of Bitcoin, whatever, to Mr. Chen of China.
Well, it wouldn't even be that. It would be this address.
Here's an address. Here's an address. Can we send this? And the bank ought to have said, no problem, we're going to charge you a $10 fee. He would have signed a piece of paper or digitally signed it, and off the money goes. That would have been efficient in the financial system. Instead, he takes the money out, he walks to our machine, he goes through a whole process of identifying himself, he puts the money in, the Bitcoin gets sent to his mobile wallet, he goes somewhere else, he sends it to the address. That's an inefficiency that doesn't need to happen anywhere in the world. Now,
helps you.
Well, I think we're filling a gap.
Yeah.
And we're filling there's many different inefficiency gaps. So in the United States, it's inefficient because the Bank of America won't do that. In Colombia, it's not so much that the banks wouldn't do it, although they won't. It's that people don't trust banks. If you don't trust your government to manage its finances, like in Argentina, why would you trust a bank that was sponsored by the government to manage your finances? You can't. On a Sunday afternoon, the Argentine government may say, you know what, we're a little bit short. We're going to take some of this money and make it ours. So you can't leave your money in the bank. So you can't trust the bank to do very many things for you. Mm-hmm. What we see as the future of decentralized finance is, let's just take savings accounts. I think universally people trust the governments of Japan, the United States, and parts of Europe to manage a banking system. You may not trust the United States, but you probably trust one of those other two. So let's say you wanted to save money. Well, I'm in Argentina. I go up to an Athena Bitcoin ATM, or what we call it a terminal. I put in my pesos and I get a Bank of Japan savings account token. Well, that's great. Argentine government comes to Athena and says, we want to confiscate the money. All the money that's been saved in the Bank of Japan. Well, we don't have it. We gave it to the Bank of Japan. If you want it, go to Japan and try to seize the money from Japan.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Good luck suing anyone in the Southern District of New York, Argentina. Won't happen. So I think the future for us is about facilitating those types of transactions, giving the banking system that we have here in the OECD, in the UK, in Europe, in the US, to the rest of the world. But not through those local banks, but through, yes, terminals like Athena or other portals like that, where they can exchange the currency that they have for the financial products they want.
So when I was planning this series about ATMs, the only thing that came up regularly as a criticism is the fees. And I'm sure you've dealt with this in the past. Quite a few people said to me, you've got to ask, why are the fees so high with ATMs? I'm sure you have an answer for me there.
There's two answers.
Yep.
One, the costs are very high. And two, it gets to the first point, which is why are the costs so high? We're delivering something instantaneous, whereas everyone else is doing something much more on a delayed settlement basis. And so we are delivering it immediately against payment that will be later on. That's the primary reason the fees are high. I'd love for us to be in a business that was high volume, that where we charged 0.5%, but that's simply just not the costs that we're incurring in delivering that service.
What are the fees on your machines?
Anywhere from 8 to 15, 16%.
Why such a broad range?
On our most popular machines, it's more expensive, and on the machines we're trying to be discounting, we discount.
So 15% is quite high. That's quite a premium.
It is. Again, thinking about sort of average transaction sizes, and we often, we're charging a rate that's often related to, someone comes up to an ATM and withdraws $20 from a typical cash machine, they might pay a $2 fee. That's a 10% fee. Someone does the same thing, they go and buy Litecoin at our machine, we're trying to take a $3-4 fee. And that fee covers our armored car to go pick up the money and drive it to our bank, and many other things along the lines.
How expensive are the machines themselves? Can you talk about that?
So the list costs of the machines that we deploy are, I think, range from $8,500 to $10,000.
Okay, so that's quite expensive as well. So there's a lot to this, probably behind the scenes, that people don't realize.
Yeah, we pay our landlords. We pay our customer service agents. They don't work for free. I'm the chief compliance officer. As much as I'd love to be independently wealthy and working for free and working towards these economic freedom type of things for free, I can't afford it. I got 2 teenagers. They're expensive.
Tell me about it.
Right? And cash handling, which is that's the core of our business. Cash handling is rather expensive. Pay for the armored car, the machine goes down, our ATM manager has to fly somewhere. So maintaining the machines and maintaining a cash handling business can get quite expensive. So,
But again, this is not for investors.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to go and invest, $25,000 in Bitcoin, one, please don't use our machines, and then two, don't use any machine. It's not the right model for an investment.
Yeah.
Where you might be where you should be very fee conscious on a large investment like that. But if you need $200 of Bitcoin today to pay someone, then yeah, absolutely, go and get our machines and get it immediately.
I imagine the fees will come down with scale, right? If you were operating 1,000 machines, I think you're probably going to have some kind of scale that goes with that. So how much competition is there in the market for you?
There's several hundred operators in the United States.
Wow, that's a lot.
There's probably
in
Canada, and there's probably about 25 of them that have a large amount of scale that operate multi-state operations. Worldwide, there's probably another 50 or so operators, but most of the activity in the ATM space is in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, a lot of it started here in Chicago, probably because Gil and I spend too much time talking about our business. But in general, there's definitely, we just crossed 5,000 machines worldwide, which is an interesting milestone for the entire industry. And I believe more than 3,000 of those are in the United States.
Wow, that's kind of interesting. Is there any changes that you guys would like to see with Bitcoin or with regulations that would make your job as a operator of Bitcoin ATMs easier?
I think there's two things that I would want to touch on. The first, on the regulatory side, we would love to see states properly apply their consumer protection laws towards regulating Bitcoin ATM operators. We try our very best to make sure that if you put in a $100 bill into one of our machines, that you get $100 of crypto. But, if we're not well regulated by some local authority, there's nothing to stop us from just taking $100 and then never giving you any crypto. And that's not right. People should be protected. People should know that if I'm walking up to our machines, one of our competitors' machines, that they know they're going to get value for it. We'd love to see that type of regulation. And we have that in some states where, the same consumer protection laws that would govern, you putting $100 into any other type of vending machine or, buying a money order or a gift card, that your gift card is going to be real. We'd love to see that kind of protection. And then on the, on the actual crypto side, we're one of the larger payers of transaction fees. And it's painful to us when someone goes and buys $5, $10, $20 of Bitcoin, and then we know what we paid to mine that transaction, or to have the block included in the next, or have that transaction included in the next block. But then knowing what our clients are going to have to pay just to go and spend that from their wallet. So innovations like Lightning are of great interest to us. A moderate increase in block size would be interesting to us, so that we can give more time to the layer 2 protocols to develop and to work out, certain types of things that they're innovating with. Lightning, I think, is a fascinating technology. It doesn't necessarily help us in what we're doing right now, but I think it could longer term.
Well, I guess you could sell Lightning Bitcoin.
We probably could.
Yeah.
I think that we may not, then the question is, do we have the right channels set up to the right people, or are we constantly opening, new channels and then only using them once or twice, and then have we really gotten any of those economies of scale?
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what the Lightning Network and the people developing it need to see these use cases, see what the actual reduction are in on-chain versus off-chain, for us to be able to get those economies of scale, which is sort of why I was thinking it would be great if we can get 2 megabyte blocks and just give a little bit of breathing room on the fee side. So, we think about fees a lot because we're a very active wallet.
Yeah.
A lot of these other places think about, how many transactions happened on Coinbase between Alice and Bob, and then who never took their Bitcoin off. Well, that's great. That's a lot of volume, but we actually, at one point I think when Gil and I started this business, we were 0.25% of all Bitcoin transactions.
Wow.
Why? Because no one was doing Bitcoin transactions, right? The exchanges are buying and selling, but that's all off chain.
Yeah.
We were on chain. Why? Because every time you put a $1 bill into our machine, that was a whole transaction. I mean, now we would batch, but we weren't batching back then.
Okay.
So every $1 bill was transactions. So we were 0.25% of all transactions.
That's amazing. Well, listen, this has been super useful, very helpful for me to understand more about how you work as an operator. Before we finish, you obviously have an opportunity now. Is there anyone you want to hear from? What are you up to? How do people reach out to you? The mic is yours.
We'd love to hear from other people in South America that are interested in crypto and
fintech.
And how can we integrate with what they're doing. And obviously, we're a growing company that has capital needs. We'd love to talk to people that are interested in furthering economic freedom to the rest of the world and wanted to invest in a growing Bitcoin ATM or really digital currency operation.
And how do people find you?
You find us on the internet at athenabitcoin.com.
And athenainvestorservices.com, athena.trade. For those that want to reach out directly, they can probably reach me, Gil with 1 L, at athenabitcoin.com. And please don't spam me.
I appreciate your time, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, so what did you make of that? Did you enjoy that first show in the ATM series? It was great to hear from Gil and Eric. It was good to get an insight into the operators side of the industry. I know most of their business is in the US at the moment, but I think it's really cool what they're doing in South America. I think these ATMs offer a really easy way to hedge against unstable local currencies in countries like Argentina and Venezuela. And the ATM on the border of Venezuela has very obvious benefits. I've obviously covered Venezuela before. I've got 3 shows. You can check them out on my website. But hopefully as more ATMs have rolled out, we will start to see the fees drop too. I really enjoyed doing this one. I really enjoy hanging out with Gil. I've done it a few times now. He's a really great guy. Hopefully you did too. Make sure you keep an eye out for tomorrow's episode when I get to speak to an ATM manufacturer. They offer a completely different insight into the industry. You know, if you want to reach out to me, as ever, you can. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. Also, if you want to support the show, there's loads of things you can do, but it's all up on my website. Just check it out there. I'm about to catch a flight to a new location in Vietnam, so I got to shoot. But if you do want to do it, head over to whatbitcoindid.com and click on the support section. And as ever, if you've got any questions, you can reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com.